aggressive on the offensive end. But this is the kind of
Williams to Devon. Bucks. Goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Yes, indeed. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Yourself, Napes?
Doing well. Nice to have a triple header on today. It was great talking to Sean Salisbury earlier, and looking forward to folks calling the show.
Yes.
Don't forget about a rant with Grant. So give me your rant ideas, and we will have a lot of fun on this show. Well, it's the last night game in Oakland for the A's going on right now.
It is a bittersweet moment. In fact, Grant, there was a moment today from Greg Papa. You've lived this with the Kings, talking about his experience last night, last time at the Coliseum. This was Greg Papa.
It just seems like yesterday that I was there doing those games. So to some respects, it did feel like a class reunion and going back and seeing a lot of people you haven't seen for a number of years in a place that was so special to you for so long. But then when I got in the car and drove away, it felt more like a funeral. And it felt like someone very close to us has died, and you're not going to see him again. And I'm not going to go back tonight. And I won't go back tomorrow afternoon. Maybe after I get out of here, I'll go visit some people after. But class reunions we'll see in 5 years. We'll see in 10 years. We'll come back. It's over.
Emotional sign-off, or at least emotional summarization of his last experience at the Coliseum, Grant.
I know what he's feeling. I know what he's gone through. And, of course, we had a much better ending in Sacramento than they're having in Oakland. But, you think about being a fan of that city with the Warriors, the Raiders, and the A's. Think about that for a minute. You have the pain of 3 franchises, and really a 4 if you count the hockey team years ago. Think about that for a minute.
It's something that you'd think you'd get used to, but we know from here in Sacramento, going through what we did, there's no way you could ever get used to that. So as a fan, it's got to be rough. You just don't know how to deal with it. And Grant, having the team close to you, what kind of dynamic does that play for a fan?
Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I know what the fans are going through. I mean, it's awful. And I feel bad for the hardcore Oakland A's fans. I truly do. And the people that worked at the Coliseum. And again, that used to be a vibrant area with football on Sundays and basketball and baseball. So that was a year-round sports facility, right? And now you're going to have nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, think about that for a minute. You went from, I remember pulling into the Oakland Coliseum, and you'd have the football stadium on the left.
Yeah.
You'd have the basketball arena on the right. And you just thought about all the history with those franchises and what they brought to that region of the Bay Area. And it's now done. Doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, the A's were the big show in town growing up for me. I mean, not a huge baseball fan, but you think about the Bash Brothers, and many times, as you said, going to the Coliseum, so many times there'd be a Warriors game later that night or a Raiders-Warriors game, different things going on, and now it's just an empty lot. And to have fans somewhat priced out, especially if you're a Warriors fan in San Francisco, it's tough.
See, when I think of the A's, I go back further than that. I mean, you bring back your generation, but I go back Catfish Hunter, Ken Holtzman, Raleigh Fingers, Reggie Jackson, Carney Lansford, Joe Rudy. I mean, we're talking about manager Dick Williams. We're talking about one of the great baseball teams ever put together. With Charlie Finley as the owner. That's back in the 70s. Those were incredible years for the Oakland A's franchise. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, a couple back-to-back World Series, I believe 72, 73, I believe. Right? And think about how times they did a lot with very little. Innovative things, Moneyball, You know, that was incredible to bring a team together on a cheap roster. In some ways, analytics have changed many sports. Baseball was near the front of that with the Oakland A's and Billy Beane.
And I understand that the nastiness and the venom towards the owner, John Fisher. I get that. I firmly understand that. But in all fairness, A's fans didn't really support the franchise before John Fisher bought the team. So, this is not an easy situation. I think there are a lot of people to blame. I think you can blame the city of Oakland too, because not only did they lose the A's, they've lost the Warriors to San Francisco, and they lost the Raiders to Vegas. So, I think the people that do the local government, from the mayor and the city council, and they're to blame for this too.
And it's a great point. And you look at the future of sports in Oakland, it doesn't seem like it's near the list or a very desirable place to bring a new franchise. Yeah.
There is no future in Oakland. Pro sports is never going back to Oakland. There's no future. There is no future. That's it. It's over. It's done. There's no way. There is no future. It's gone.
Yeah, it's hard to swallow. I hope the hardcore A's fans and even casual fans, if you had a memory at the Coliseum, you enjoy these next couple nights. You got the game going right now. I know they're down to Texas, but tomorrow, I hope it's more of a celebration rather than, a downer.
All right. So if you have any thoughts on that, feel free to call the show, or you can get in on the chat line, whatever works for you. So happy that you're here on If You Don't Like. Week 4 of the NFL season begins tomorrow with the Cowboys at the Giants. And, these are two franchises right now that, I didn't expect anything from the Giants. They're 1-2. Dallas, I thought, would be a 9 or 10 win team, but boy, the last 2 weeks they've been humiliated.
Yeah. What happened to that defense, Grant? What happened in Dallas? That was supposed to be the strong suit at times. You know what you're going to get out of Dak Prescott. But the Giants have been surprising. Danny Jones, you've talked about it. He's had plus 100 passing rating games, 2 games in a row now. He hasn't been getting touched too much, not making the bad decisions, and the running game's pretty good. But it's a game that matters tomorrow night. That division is pretty wide open. There's not a clear-cut leader outside of the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I expect Dallas to win tomorrow. They're a better team than the Giants. Daniel Jones has played much better the last 2 weeks. They have a dynamic young wide receiver, Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
Singletary's been running the ball well. The biggest improvement I've seen so far with the Giants after week 1 has been their pass blocking. They've done a better job of protecting their quarterback. But, I'm expecting CeeDee Lamb to have a huge game tomorrow. He came out yesterday and apologized for the way he acted and for everything else. So I expect him to have a really big game. The Giants don't have anyone that even can come close to defending him.
Yeah, both secondaries a little bit banged up. But what you said about the Giants pass blocking, that's going to be so important because that Dallas rush has been not very good. Last week, only 2 sacks. The week before, 1 sack. They're giving up 7.7 yards a play defensively, worst in the NFL as we sit.
Don't forget a rant with Grant a little bit later coming up on the show. Give me your rant ideas today, and we will do it. I'll also introduce a new sponsor on the show tonight. Very happy about that. So that's all coming up on the show today. A Grant with Rant. All right? Do it.
Grant with Rant. What's a Grant with Rant?
I'm sorry. I'm a moron. How about a moron for a moron for a moron?
There's a rant.
A rant with Grant.
All good. What's going on with the chat? Is everybody, we see the eyeballs. Where's the chat? We haven't seen anybody. Give us some rant ideas. We want to hear from you. Lots of go. Pick it up. Come on.
Yeah, don't disappoint me on this Wednesday, huh?
There we go.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Patrick. Way to pick us up, buddy. Talking about.
Yeah, the Giants starting cornerback out. They have a lot of players. Their back end is not very good. I just don't see how they're going to be able to guard. The only way they're going to be able to do it is by getting a pass rush. So I'm expecting the Giants to have a heavy blitz package tomorrow on Dak Prescott.
Yeah, we'll see it. Usually these games, low scoring Thursday nights, not too bad of a travel, but still a quick turnaround, especially this time of the season. Now you're kind of got the momentum wearing off, the euphoria from getting out there week 1 starting to go off.
Yeah, so Jackson at corner is out. It's a short week, so the injury list does really mean a lot on a Wednesday before your Thursday game. But we'll see. Giants and Cowboys tomorrow. So I'll be doing a show tomorrow at 4:00 right before the game. So I'll go about 30 minutes tomorrow, do a 4 o'clock show, maybe 45 minutes, and then get off and get ready to watch the game. So that will be tomorrow, coming up right here on If You Don't Like That at 4 o'clock.
Excellent. Can't wait for that. It's not just NFL football we have this weekend. What about this matchup, Napes? Incredible.
Well, we talked about it yesterday. It's the first time since 2007 that Alabama is a home underdog. They're giving 2 points to Georgia. Number 2, number 4, it's a dandy. I'll be watching it. I don't know about you, but I know where I'll be at 4:30 Pacific time on Saturday.
Yeah, my eyes are going to be glued to the screen. It seems like Jalen Milrose has the keys to this matchup. Alabama's offense, first in the nation, and plays over 20 yards. Kirby Smart, 1-5 versus Bama career, but Nick Saban, first year away from the program. So can they put a spy on Milrose? He can do it with his legs. Do they find something in between? But certainly going to have college football fans on the edge of their seats.
Yeah, I thought Milroe was much better against Wisconsin. I was not crazy about him in the first 2 games against Western Kentucky and South Florida, but I really liked how he played against a better Wisconsin team. But this is now you're going against a bona fide power, and I'm not saying that Alabama's not, but I look at Alabama right now, and I don't think they're where they were under Nick Saban, but they have a chance to prove a lot of people like myself wrong on Saturday.
They seem to rise to the occasion more times than not. And at the same time, Grant, to your point about how that Jalen Milrose not impressed in the first couple games, they play down to their competition sometimes. It's going to be hard for a game like this, both sides not to be ready to go.
Well, I know one thing. It's going to be a crazy crowd in Tuscaloosa, 6:30 local time. So they'll be tailgating all day, and it will be a crazy, crazy venue in Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday. But that's the headliner on the NFL. And I think the headliner NFL or college, I think the headliner on the NFL is Baltimore hosting Buffalo because Baltimore is off to a bad start at 1-2. They cannot afford to lose to Buffalo. And you got to figure that Buffalo is going to, they're not going to run the table. This is going to be a very tough game coming up on Sunday, or I think it's Sunday night.
Yeah, it is going to be a difficult game. Buffalo looks probably the best in the NFL. The Ravens, as you said, great team. I'm looking at another matchup. And with the 49ers in mind, you got Detroit and Seattle on Monday night. Not saying it because I'm a Hawks fan and we're 3-0. I'm saying it because, look,
no, you're right.
New England is not going to be a pushover for the Niners with the amount of injuries they have right now, Grant. And to go up, have a 3-game lead in the division this early, that's steep.
Yeah, I think you're right about Seattle, and I think that, we cannot just ignore them. They're off to a good start. You can talk about maybe their quality of opponents, but they've done what they've had to do, and McDonald's doing a nice job up there. I mean, think about it. He's replacing a hell of a coach in Pete Carroll, and they're off to a flying start.
Yeah, in some ways, he's really opened up this offense and really utilized DK Metcalf differently than Pete Carroll did, and that has surprised me because he is a defensive coach and a lot of first-time coordinators up there as well.
All right, this is an interesting question. Grant, what's your favorite game you ever called? I don't know if I have a favorite that's just head and shoulders above the rest. The 35-point comeback in Chicago where the Kings were down 35 in the third quarter is one. I did a playoff game on radio against the Mavericks that you can see my calls on YouTube. It's pretty phenomenal for me to go back, and Dave Grashoff put together a montage of me calling the game, and to say that I was into it would be an understatement. So I think those are the 2 games that pop out to me.
Weber's got that dirty, nasty look. Classic.
That was one of my favorite broadcasts of all time. I've shared this with you, and I've shared this with many other people. I enjoyed calling games on radio much more than television. So whenever I had a chance to call games on radio, it was my core of who I was and who I am. And so I normally got a chance to call the NBA games on radio in the playoffs because G-Man was always doing the Indy 500 in May. So like I did games 3 and 4 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals in LA where the Kings blew out the Lakers in game 3. I did the Robert Horry shot in game 4. I did a lot of the playoff games in Dallas. I mean, I live for those. I love those. Those were phenomenal. I did the games by myself, and to say the least, I was a high energy guy.
Yeah.
But Patrick wants to know the Klay Thompson game. That's also one of my favorites. Klay Thompson with 37 points in the third quarter. And again, if you go to YouTube and you just put in Kings announcers on Klay Thompson's game, they've put together a really nice montage of me and Jerry calling the game. And I received a lot of props for that, which meant a lot to me because that's not the team I was working for. So those are some of the things that have stuck out in my mind.
Is there a difference for you between favorite game to call and favorite games you've been a part of?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, favorite games I've been a part of: Game 7, New York Rangers Stanley Cup Finals, 1994. January 25th, 1987, first time the Giants won a Super Bowl, and I was at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Those are the third one is being at Indianapolis when the Giants won their last Super Bowl with my two boys. So those are my three favorite sporting events that I've ever been to.
Love it. Special. Those are big events, my friend.
Yep. Hey, I need a rant idea. So a rant with Grant, give me an idea and we will definitely do it. All right. So give me some rant ideas and we will have a lot of fun with that. A rant with Grant coming up in just a little bit.
Definitely. Speaking of the Kings, I heard you talking last night. There was a caller speaking about Vlade's comments overseas about the Luka situation. So I thought I'd bring a little clarity. And Grant, you were pretty much spot on, but I found the latter part of Vlade's comments interesting. Want to get your take, and obviously everybody in the chat. Vlade says, at that position, I already had De'Aaron Fox, whom I drafted a year earlier. At the time, I believe Fox was a player who could become a franchise star in the coming years. Time will tell if I was wrong. As things stand now, it seems I was. But I still have faith in Fox having a great career.
That's what I said yesterday.
To a T.
So where's all the confusion?
It's pretty much spot on. He goes on to talk about Fox being more of a playmaker for others, but needs the ball in his hand. But I thought the last part of what he said was interesting, saying that as things stand now, it seems he was wrong.
Yeah.
Would you say that is it really that big of a miscalculation? Luka versus the Kings with Fox during this time and what they've built to now.
I would say I would remove the word seems from there.
Yeah.
Because he was wrong. Because in order for Vlade not to be wrong on that, the Kings would have to win a championship.
Sure.
Because Dallas has not won a championship with Luka, although they were just in the NBA Finals. And I don't think there's anyone that ever thinks that De'Aaron Fox is going to be a better player than Luka Doncic. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Okay, so the better player ended up going to a franchise that the Kings could have had. But I always go back and say, I find it so interesting that as dynamic as Luka is, three teams decided that they didn't want him on their team. First was the Phoenix Suns, who took DeAndre Ayton. And third was the Atlanta Hawks, who wanted Trae Young.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, too, that people don't think about. It wasn't a guarantee that Luka was going to be a success. That goes without saying. But Luka's style of basketball was somewhat counterintuitive to the way the NBA was going in terms of up pace, fast, shooting the three ball. Luka can do those things, but he's more of an ISO guy, Grant, and you got to build a team very specifically with a player like that.
And I would also say this. When we look at European basketball, Luka was the man, right? He was the MVP of the league, correct?
Correct.
But there was that stigma, well, it's European basketball.
Yep.
Sasha Vezenkov, MVP of the league. Kings fans were like, wow, we're getting the MVP of the EuroLeague. Well, he's not even in the league anymore after 1 year. Again, is that stereotype of, well, yeah, it's Europe. Well, it's Europe. Well, it's Europe. And what was interesting is the head coach of the Phoenix Suns during that draft coached Luka.
Yes, that is correct.
All right.
Spot on.
And they didn't take Luka. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. A player of that caliber overseas, MVP coached. You don't bring him into the league.
So, and then the Atlanta Hawks, right?
Yep. Trae
Anybody
Young.
out there think that they would rather have Trae Young than Luka Doncic?
I think it depends on the way you look at your basketball team and what you consider success. Because I don't think in the Mavericks, granted, they put it together last year because they finally got the right pieces around Luka, but it took how long to get to that point? And so not every organization is in a position like Mark Cuban to throw money around. Granted, they're not a massive market team. So it's a double-edged coin. I get it. If we were going one-on-ones, yes, Luka all day over anybody in that draft, but it's tough.
All right, well, here we go. I feel like drafts in sports are sometimes overrated. You can have all the analytics, stats, etc., but who knows if a player will ever be good or not? So many other teams have passed on great players. Well, I don't think drafts are overrated. I think that just because you select a player high in the draft, well, just look at the quarterback position in the NFL. It seems like quarterbacks that don't go number one are a lot more successful than quarterbacks that do.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
There have been many, many mistakes made at the top of the NBA draft. Look at the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers that made a trade where the Sixers took Markelle Fultz. Think about that. Yeah. They moved up in the draft to take Markelle Fultz, who was an absolute bust, and gave away a first-round pick. The Boston Celtics drafted Jason Tatum, got a lot of draft capital, and that was really the start of their rise to where they are now as the best team in the NBA. Okay? In that draft, Josh Jackson went 4th to Phoenix, draft bust. De'Aaron Fox 5th. So think about that draft alone. A team was so enamored with a player that they gave up a lot to draft a player that ended up being a bust, where the Boston Celtics and Danny Ainge mopped up and is one of the reasons why they're a championship team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other element to this is the player development. Teams are looking at what they have on staff, what they have on the roster, and who they think is, I don't want to say the most moldable or coachable, but they're figuring in what they think they can do with that player. And so I think that's a little bit of a nuance, a wrinkle that goes into it. And then you talked about Marvin Bagley last night. I caught the tail end of that, and that's so true. What about the variables outside of being on the court with players?
Marvin Bagley's biggest issue when he was in Sacramento were two things. Number one was his health. He was hurt all the time. And number two was his dad. His dad was a huge detriment to his NBA career in Sacramento. Huge. And fans don't understand that. Just they don't. They don't understand it.
Yeah, look, do this. Go to your local, if you have a son, daughter, there's that dad in the stand that's always coaching from the stands. They know better. Can only imagine what was going on because publicly he was involved in damn near everything Marvin was doing.
This is a stupid question. Marvin Bagley was taken second in the draft. Frank Mason was a second-round pick. Come on.
No, I see what Jack's doing. He's indirectly trying to give you a rant. See, he wants you to rant on him for that comment.
It's pretty close to ranting on him, you know. Gabriel, spot on. SGA was a great pick at 11. Yes, he was, you know, again, you could say the Kings took the wrong point guard, that they should have taken Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yep. What ifs? You could go all day. Look, the Kings are where they are now. And instead of looking back, and I know we're talking about the Lucas situation, let's talk about the decision. This year is the year for De'Aaron Fox, Grant. He is coming up with 1 full year on his contract after this season. It's do or die for this franchise and him in success.
Okay, so that tells me that you're going to see the very best version of De'Aaron Fox that we've seen since he's been in Sacramento. That's
sure,
what it's telling me.
So I would think so. He's been very focused from people I've talked to in the offseason, looking Yeah, looking at some of the things that some of us have pointed out, certainly things
Yep.
that the coaching staff has pointed out, and he's been a little bit more vocal, more involved
Yep.
leader-wise from what I've heard as well. So
I've heard
that
he's had a great summer.
yes, exactly right. And, he's not a very social guy when it comes to social media. And he went on and said, Kings fans, this is on us. We'll do better. We'll be back.
Gabriel's spot on. One more. Jalen Brunson was a second-round pick that same year. Yeah. Again, the draft is listen, if there were no mistakes made in the draft, everyone would have a good team.
Yeah. Drafts wouldn't be interesting then, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Drafts would
What it
not be
is.
interested. Look at the Kings draft pick this year. Their picks hurt. I mean, now I'm not saying that that's a bust and he'll never be good, but I still believe the Kings would not have taken him if they had known of the severity of a shoulder injury. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. They felt like, from all indications, best player available. They were loaded. If you look at, relatively speaking, the composition of the roster, they didn't need another guard at that spot. But that's what they thought was the best player available in Devin Carter.
James says Kings draft pick has been bad outside of Cousins and Fox the last 15 years. Well, first of all, Cousins was a horrible pick at number 5 because he ruined the franchise. And you're wrong. Tyrese Halliburton was a great pick
Yes.
for Sacramento. Not a good pick. He was a great pick. And because of him, you now have Domantas Sabonis.
Yep, absolutely. Isaiah Thomas, solid.
Great pick.
Second round pick there. But certainly
pick.
for the good picks, there's probably 2 bad picks.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly Cousins was a bad pick because of his cancer-like presence within the organization. Coach killer, hard to play with, embarrassing, suspended, vile, a bully. That was not a good pick. That was a very bad pick. The pick of Tyrese Halliburton was a great pick, not a good pick. That was a great pick.
Yeah, completely agree. Will be one of the faces of the NBA going forward. Just won a gold medal. Great player.
I think Keegan Murray is an excellent pick, and I think he'll end up proving to be that. Don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. There were guys that people wanted ahead of him in that draft as well, but he was exactly what the Kings needed. I mean, Kings fans, what more can you ask for? The guy set a rookie record for 3-pointers. It's crazy. It's great.
Again, I think the Kings draft history since they moved from Sacramento in '85 has been awful. I mean, they've missed on superstar after superstar after superstar. I mean, the Kings really have never had a true superstar. They've missed out on multiple true superstars, beginning with Karl Malone, then going to Kevin Johnson, and right on through the 90s with another bunch of superstars that they could have had, and the latest being Luka Doncic. So they've missed out on many superstars that they could have had.
So what do you chalk it up to? You had multiple front offices. You had different owners. Is it bad luck, Grant?
Yeah, it's bad luck because there's not the same person that's doing all the picks over 35 years. Yeah. It's, Yeah,
the Cousins thing, to me, how that doesn't get vetted out. I get he only had a year in college, but you got to go further back to find something like that. And outside of John Calipari.
He had red flags, and we discussed them. And I remember doing my show with Mike Lamb right before the draft. May have been on draft day or the day of the draft. And I asked Mike point blank, would you draft him? He goes, absolutely not. He's got too many red flags. I would stay away from him. And Mike was spot on.
Yep, absolutely.
And Mike's a guy that played, big time Division I college football at USC, and he understood the magnitude of having a bad apple in your room.
Yeah, especially Grant 12 that are on the 12 that dress, but you know what I'm saying. It's a small locker room. It's not a NFL locker room. It's not a baseball locker room.
Yep. So again, you can look back and say, what if, but I mean, you can't really do anything about it. You have to hope that the players that you have on your team now will develop. And I think Fox is going to have a great year unless he, suffers an injury. I think he's going to have the best year of his career.
Yeah. Looking at the people that the Kings realistically could have brought in, Grant, this last summer, DeMar DeRozan's in the handful of the best options. So he frees Fox up. He's going to give him more time without the ball, a little bit less of a burn rate, which makes Fox's specialness that much more special.
Don't forget about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fixed view, and they're available around the clock. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. And again, remember, they are available 24/7 for all of your plumbing needs and repairs. Again, sackserviceplumbing.com or call that number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Hey, don't forget about the weekend brunch. If you are looking for great plans this coming Saturday and Sunday, Bennett's has you covered at 3 locations: Sacramento, Roseville, the West Side Grill in Rockland, Prime Seafood and Steaks at Bennett's. Don't forget about their happy hour sips and taste from 2 to 6 every day. You go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com, you make a reservation. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Get down there for their Prime Seafood and Steaks. It is outstanding.
And if you're thinking about doing a holiday party, you got office gets-togethers, their private dining rooms, incredible. Book them up. They go quick.
Absolutely. And don't forget, I need a rant with Grant. So I need some ideas. All right. I need some ideas. If not, I'll have Rhino pick out one for me. Put the pressure on you, buddy.
I think I could come up with something. Come on, step it up in the chat. Really interesting story. Not sure if you saw this, Snapes, coming out of UNLV, who is having a pretty darn good season football-wise. They've knocked off 2 Big 12 opponents. 3-0, getting ready for not this week, but the week after, a big game against Syracuse. Coming to Vegas. Their quarterback, Grant, allegedly, verbally, was promised $100,000 of NIL money, which was never paid. He is now transferred from the program and is redshirting.
How about that? Yep. Think about that for a minute. 3-0, said, you know what? You broke a promise to me. I'm gone. Bye-bye. How about that?
$100,000. And really, Grant, put the university in an impossible spot, because if you pay him, now you're going to have the NCAA breathing down your back, which is a whole nother discussion. But you don't pay him, this happens. Your quarterback walks.
Not good. You know, it's a bad story for UNLV. It is. It's bad on multiple fronts. First of all, they look like they're off to a hell of a start. And you said they had the Syracuse game coming up, which would have been huge for them. And now they lose their number one guy at quarterback.
Yeah, it is. It's a developing story, because these aren't just situations that affect one program. These are precedents, Grant. The Florida case where a player left and is now suing for NIL money. These are decisions that are eventually going to come out that could affect future decisions in college football. Speaking of college,
I want to get to this. How about Gabriel? They said also they are still thinking about joining the Pac-12.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. They're ready to join the Pac-12. Their program has been sufficient. If San Diego State, Fresno State are getting in, they're just fine.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Where were you going? What were you going to say?
I was going to bring in our college football guy, Condog, right on time.
Oh, man, this story has had me thinking, a lot of things. First of all, it's because this whole NIL and transfer portal thing and conference realignment is the wild, wild west. It is free range anywhere, anyhow. Technically it's not somebody promised him money from somewhere, but obviously the school isn't directly paying him. And, the NCAA doesn't directly pay him. There's no union like, our players association like MLB, NBA, or NFL. I've heard some other things about shady deals. And then the schools can't give the legal advice because all this, and I knew this was going to happen because of this. You have a bunch of people that, they want to find ways to win games. And now they have ways to, get players in and maybe, not fulfill their end of the bargain. And it's just going to be a whole, it's going to be like playing dice, man. Speaking of Vegas, you're just rolling dice.
Well, here's the deal. It's not NIL. This has been happening forever. These situations, it's just now legal to talk about it with NIL. This stuff's nothing new.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that I'm seeing it, and you guys chime in, cap it. Just don't have a rule that you can't pay for a player to come to a school. Cap it, be done with it. Don't say that Alabama's going to get all the talent, Georgia's going to get all the talent, because there's limited spots and limited money. Talent will still be dispersed. Then you save the trouble of all the violations and investigations with the NCAA, and that's money that goes back out to the schools instead of millions and millions in lawsuits. Just do it.
Yeah. That's the whole thing with the NCAA, man. They just want to throw things to the side and deal with the ramifications later. That's how this organization's always been.
Yep.
It goes back a long way with that. They just always want to, take the easy way out, and then they end up getting sued constantly and in a bunch of court battles. And I really don't know why you want to deal with a lot of court battles later on. I'd rather solve something head on and avoid that. But I guess the NCAA likes paying lawyers.
Look, go ahead, Grant.
No, I was just going to say, Gabriel's saying that Brett McMurphy just tweeted that UNLV is staying in the Mountain West. So that's developing, and we appreciate, Gabriel, the information on that. A man that is very much dialed into college football. I've actually had him on when I was hosting a Jim Rome show quite often he does a great job. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, Condog, I was just going to agree with you. It's at this point, the NCAA already, they don't have much of a bite anymore. It's more about a bark. It's really looking like they are doing something productive. It was the Big Ten that punished Jim Harbaugh in Michigan last year, not the NCAA.
Yeah.
The NCAA came out this year and imposed show cause sanctions on Harbaugh. So
All right, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So they got to figure it out. It's just getting a little out of hand.
All right. So Brett McMurphy just put out on social media, Air Force and UNLV are expected to remain in the Mountain West, sources told Action Network headquarters. The two schools are each expected to receive a signing bonus between 25 and 30 million, 5 times their media rights value from the pending exit fees from the Mountain West will receive, sources said. Mountain West still needs one more school to reach the FBS minimum of 8 members by 2026.
That was the big news, is that the Air Force was staying, but this, both these schools are at 7-7 right now. Pac State is what I'm going to call it right now, since every school is a state school. I'm just going to call it Pac State and Mountain West. There are some other teams that may be looking elsewhere, and I'm the big player in this one, I think, as of right now, is the Texas State Bobcats out of the Sun Belt. I think that's the one that can afford to, go out west, because there's a lot of money in Texas football, regardless of what school. No matter.
Do we
what
even care?
you're
Do we
at.
even care? Do we even care? I mean, they're still not going to be anywhere near the magnitude of the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, right? I mean, does it really even matter?
Maybe not, but there's still a lot of logistical problems with this when it comes to these smaller sports. The football can travel. The football can travel, but it's a lot of the smaller that are in the struggle bus right now. Like,
great point.
Stanford's women's volleyball team is traveling the most miles this year out of any sport. And it's because they also have a non-conference schedule that, had them going to Kentucky and Wisconsin and playing Texas, and then build their ACC schedule. Now, Stanford women's volleyball is pretty good and well-funded, and Stanford's a rich school, but I don't know about the rest I don't know what the viewership is for the rest of their programs and stuff. And it's going to be hard for a lot of these other schools with a lot of their smaller stuff, their wrestling, their rugby or whatever, lacrosse. It's going to be a struggle. And I think eventually it's going to be logistically and economically just unfeasible for some of these schools to have their smaller programs either do that. And if everything was just football move, this would be fine. But I think in the end, it's going to come down to we just either have to cut these programs because we can't afford this travel, or we got to find a way back to regional conferences, because it's just not working.
Yep. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your input on the program today.
All right, man. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Conduct.
Dorian said this: as a former Sac State football alum, it would be amazing to see the Hornets in the Mountain West. The facilities need a lot of upgrading, though, and more fans to attend games. There's no question on both of those. And I've been saying that, when I heard about Sac State and their interest in the Pac-12, it made me laugh. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
Like, in no disrespect, I know some of the people on the board that are trying to make this happen, and I have the utmost respect for them and consider myself friends of them, but they're just not dealing with reality. Deal with reality. The Mountain West, to me, I could see that. All right. But as Dorian said, you'd have to upgrade, and the fans are going to have to be more involved with the program.
Spot on. And you got to walk before you run. Mountain West is a much more logical conference for them to play in. The thing with Sac State, though, is they are on the rise. It's just you don't go from where you're at now to the Pac-12. And even if you do, these are things that take years of planning, strategic planning. It doesn't happen overnight with, hey, we need 25 or 15,000 at every home game, Grant, the rest of the year. We need 50 million in NIL. We need 5 million for the transfer. That's too quick.
Their stadium is a joke.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's a joke. I mean, if you go to Texas, you'll find high school stadiums that blow away what they have in Sac State. I mean, blow away. I mean, let's just start with the basics. If you're going to go into that direction, somebody needs a plan today with shovels in the ground to build a brand new football facility.
Yeah, it is a spot on point. And then you throw in the basketball, Grant. You think that you're going to have some of these teams go in and play at Sac State basketball wise?
No chance. You'd have to have an agreement with Golden One Center to have your home games played there. And you could do that.
Yeah,
but I don't know what the cost would be.
Well, and then you got to work it around the Kings schedule. You would not have priority.
No, correct. Yep. But I mean, at least that is a solution. If you wanted to go in that direction while a new facility on campus was being built, you could do that.
Yep, certainly. And Dorian, I think the Mountain West, as I said, is a great plan. I would aim that way. And I think Sac State, if you're talking about, what did Sea-Dog say? Texas State?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're talking about a school like that, there's no reason Sac State couldn't contend for a
I've never even heard of Texas State until he brought him up. I've never even heard of Texas State.
Me either. And here's the other thing, Grant, how do we know these conferences aren't going to keep changing and the rules aren't going to keep changing around them? So it's a fluid situation. I wouldn't rush to put your eggs in one basket.
All right. Again, we are very happy to have you. I have a rant idea that I think I'm going to do, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it.
Because I was thinking about this over the last couple of days, and it also gives me an opportunity to welcome my newest sponsor to the show. All right. Eldorado Hills Motors, Automotive Reimagined. All right. And I'm very happy to have them on. And I had a chance to visit their beautiful facility at the Eldorado Hills Town Center when I was in Sacramento 3 weeks ago. All right. We live in a world that's obsessed with efficiency and innovation, right?
Yep.
But you know what I love about Eldorado Hills Motors after talking with them is the simplification. All right. It's a concept of true innovation. So what is it that they're going to try to do? All right. Well, very simple. All right. They are a society of two people that have over 40 years of combined experience in the automotive industry. All right. They're able to take the process of purchasing a new car from abhorrent or tolerable, and they can make it enjoyable and memorable. So a new car brokerage, they have the ability to sell virtually any new car with their clients, never having to step foot into a dealership. All right. You can take advantage of the competitive nature of the franchise car dealerships. They negotiate on their clients' behalf with multiple dealerships while being able to utilize all factory incentives, rebates, and interest. All right. Here's the deal. We're talking about simplification. We're talking about communication so that the right car fits your needs. Building relationships. Again, you're taking the process of purchasing a new car from what can be a miserable experience to an enjoyable experience. Go to edhmotors.com, or you can go to Instagram at edhmotors. But again, the website, edhmotors.com. I am very happy to have them here on If You Don't Like That. Now time for Grant's Rant. I am so tired of NFL players who hold out and then come back, and you're like, what the hell happened to them? Exhibit A, Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers. Brandon Ayuk holds out, threatening to go here, doesn't want to go to Cleveland, demands a trade, then blocks a trade, and all of a sudden he ends up with a big new deal, and he's out celebrating, and I believe he got engaged, and good for him with his personal life, okay? Well, now it's time to play football, all right? You've been awful through 3 weeks. The team needs you now without Samuel and McCaffrey and Kittle. And what are you doing? You're dropping balls. CeeDee Lamb holds out, wants a mega deal. What happens to CeeDee Lamb? He's already had to apologize to the team after 3 weeks for his play on the field, for his conduct off the field. What the hell is that about? The Cowboys open up the bank vault for you, and you now have to apologize to your team and to the fans for your conduct, and that you need to be better, and that you realize that? Seriously? Like, what is that all about? That's freaking embarrassing. What's going on in Cincinnati with Jamar Chase at 0-3? Again, Ryan, this drives me freaking crazy. We saw it last year with Nick Bosa, right? His play went downhill. He didn't have the year that we were expecting him to have. And already through 3 weeks, Ryan, what would you say about Brandon Ayuk? I'd give him a D or an F, all right? A D or an F. That stuff drives me crazy. Hold out, get your money, but you better have your ass ready to play. And Brandon Ayuk did not have his ass ready to play. And that's my rant for today.
Spot on, Grant. And if I may, can we throw Deshaun Watson in the mix?
Yes.
Let's give him the proper respect in the rant segment that he deserves. How about this guy coming out and saying, I am not here. I was not signed to run the ball. Hey, Deshaun, you don't have a damn leg to stand on right now. If the Cleveland Browns want you to mop the floor, you grab that stick and put a damn smile on your face.
Yep. Amen. And
You
again,
got
I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you again to EDH Motors for their sponsorship, Automotive Reimagined at the El Dorado Hills Town Center. And Rhino, as you talk about Deshaun Watson, we are going to be talking a lot about the NBA. We've talked a little bit about it already. And if folks out there are interested in sponsorship, deals, we would love to have you be a partner. You can send me an email if you don't like me and you love Rhino. Send Rhino an email. All right. Rhino in Sacktown at gmail.com or gnapier@gmail.com. Again, very happy to have EDH Motors joining us here on the podcast, and look very much forward to helping their business grow and prosper at the El Dorado Hills Town Center. I'm going to go on with this because they're a new sponsor.
Yeah.
I had never really thought of the concept of what they do. But I have, when I first moved to Sacramento and in Illinois, I had a couple of horrific car buying experiences.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I became prominent in the community, I was able to meet the decision makers, and it became a very pleasant experience. But I kept on hearing from friends about, buying a car. It felt like they had just gone, 15 rounds with Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Well, El Dorado Hills Motors takes that out of the equation. It becomes enjoyable. You have two individuals that you're working with. You sit in a beautiful office in El Dorado Hills. You can take delivery of your vehicle right there. You don't deal with the nonsense and all the pressure and all the games and the financing department and everything else. It's just a much more pleasurable experience. And so that's why I'm very happy to have them on, because it's a concept I had never thought of. And after meeting with one of the owners, I was like, man, I like this. This makes sense. This is something I would do.
It is so brilliant, Grant. You always get tossed around at the dealerships, or if you're doing it online, there's always a loophole that they don't tell you about, and it turns into a mess. So super to have them on as well. And it is a great idea. Make it easy. Love it.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. If you want to get in on before we wrap it up, we can do that. Said Mad Dog's rant today on First Take was a good one, aimed at A's ownership and Oakland City Council. It was great. I'll listen to it, and I can guarantee you I will have agreed without even knowing what he said. I'll agree with Chris, because that's how I feel about it.
I'm with you. That's your guy. And it's hard to be wrong with the A's and John Fisher.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Hey, don't forget about Sunrise Landing, the newest residential community in Calusa from Blazona Development. And if you go to CalusaSunrise.com, you can get all the information you need on Sunrise Landing. 6 models to choose from, no Mellorews, no homeowners, adjacent to the Calusa Golf and Country Club. Great access to I-5, Highway 20, Highway 45. And again, you go to CalusaSunrise.com. You can check out everything at Sunrise Landing. That's CalusaSunrise.com and Sunrise Landing. You're doing a show tomorrow at 2 o'clock, right?
Yeah, be on from 2 to 3. Come join us. We'll get the everybody warmed up for your pregame show at 4.
Yeah, I am very much looking forward to coming on a 4, Giants and Cowboys. And obviously, I've got tremendous interest in that. So, yeah, I'm geared up. I cannot wait to see if the New York Giants are going to show up tomorrow in front of their hometown fans. So last time the Giants were at home, they were booed off the field as they deserved to be booed off the field. It was one of the worst performances that I've seen. Now, in retrospect, they played a pretty good football team in Minnesota, but they were embarrassingly bad, and they got booed off the field. They'll get booed off the field tomorrow, too, if it's not a better performance.
Yeah, and on the flip side, Grant, Malik Neighbors has the opportunity to have the coming out party with a national audience watching and a Giants team that could get to 500, beating a divisional rival. So it could be a big night.
You know, the winner of tomorrow's game is going to be in pretty decent shape. And I don't think the Giants are a playoff team, and nor do I expect them to be anywhere near there. Dallas is a playoff caliber team, but not the way they looked the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Dallas usually hits this stretch a little bit later in the season. Surprised to see it this early. And it's been a wacky year. There's always a few teams that surprise you and a few that let you down.
All right. Appreciate everyone. Again, I really say thank you to the newest sponsor of the program, EDH Motors. If you want to come on and be a sponsor, you have the email address. Hit me up and Ryan, and we'll be more than happy to discuss that with you. Rhino, enjoy the rest of your evening, my friend.
Appreciate it, Grant. You as well.
And to everyone else, thank you very much. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on If You Don't Like That.